Welcome to the Crime Redefined Podcast, produced by Zero Cliff Media. Coming to you from the U.S. Bank Tower, high above downtown Los Angeles. In our podcast, we drill deep into forensics and criminal investigation from the viewpoint of the defense, as well as explore the intersection of the media and the justice system.
Well, hello again, Crime Redefined Podcast fans. We are excited to bring you another episode, and we really hope that we're living up to the title of our podcast. And Dion, I'd say that there's no doubt that today's guest is at a very unique relationship and experience with the justice system.
That is a true statement. Today's guest is Bobby Bostic, author of the book Humbled to the Dust, Still I Rise. He shares the unfortunate distinction, Mehul, of being the only juvenile in the history of Missouri to be sentenced. Get ready for this, 241 years in prison.
Oh, man, that's brutal. And you know what? This is not the story of a wrongful conviction. So Bobby writes in his book that on that fateful day, December 12th, 1995, he was just 16 years old and his life changed forever. And he'll tell you on that day he was drinking, he was doing drugs, he living in the neighborhood he was in, there was gang activity. And basically what happened was, along with an accomplice, Bobby robbed a group of people. And during that robbery, Bobby fired a gun and the bullet actually grazed a man. And if that wasn't enough, the two of them then carjacked and robbed a woman. And Bobby makes no bones about it. He clearly is saying that he did it. That's not the issue here.
Yeah, and for all that, his reward, in Bobby writes in his latest book about when he was transferred to the adult jail at the age of 17.
Eesh.
And I quote, "These dorms held 50 inmates with bunks in rows in a large space enclosed by bars with 8 day rooms off to the side for us to watch television. There were only 2 television. There were only 2 phones, about 5 sinks, 1 toilet for 50 men." Let me read that again. 1 toilet for 50 men.
No, I couldn't hang.
Four urinals, you'd say that, and 8 shower heads. There was no privacy. I was shocked. The workhouse is a very filthy jail. Our only belongings were a mattress, sheets, blanket, a tub to keep our toiletries in, a t-shirt, boxers, socks, and a detention center uniform.
So that was Bobby's living condition as he was waiting for trial. The trial began on January 23rd, 1997. And at that point, Bobby was 18 years old. The judge, Evelyn Baker, absolutely threw the book at him. 241 years in prison. And that had to be served consecutively. That gave him eligibility for parole at the young age of 112. So after sentencing, when Bobby went to state prison, he was known by the state as inmate number 526795.
And for many, that would be the end of the story, but not for Bobby. He took his rehabilitation into his hands, immersing himself in reading, spirituality, and the law. Bobby managed to write 15 books while in prison under those living situations.
Well, I mean, if you're an aspiring author, you've got no excuse if Bobby can crank out 15 in the can. I mean,
100%.
Well, finally, there was a happy ending on November 9th, 2022, at the age of 43. And after he'd been in prison for 27 years, Bobby was finally released on parole because of changes in the law. Now, who helped him get there? Believe it or not, the judge, Evelyn Baker. She actually attended his parole hearing and, on his behalf. And when he rolled out of that prison, Judge Evelyn Baker was there to greet him. So this is really an incredible story of redemption. And it shines a spotlight on a major flaw in the Missouri justice system.
So hopefully after hearing all that, we've piqued your interest in Bobby's story. So let's go talk to him.
Yeah.
Hey, Bobby, thank you so much for joining us on the Crime Redefined podcast today. We're really excited to have you.
Blessed to be here.
We really appreciate your time, and we know that you got a lot of stuff going on right now these days. So we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend some time with us and tell us your story.
Okay. I'm honored to tell it right here today.
Well, let's go. Let's start with something very positive. Let's go back to that awesome day, Bobby, November 8th, 2022, when you were finally released after 27 years. Now, you were styling when you left the prison, wearing that blue suit. So tell us a little bit about that suit and what it meant to you and what it represented.
November 9th, 2022, the suit, well, you when you go home, when you release for prison, you decide what you want to wear. And I decided I wanted to wear a suit. And that was always my dream. Like, I want to make a statement when I walk out. I want to walk out in a suit because this suit represents the new business of life. It's a business suit, and I'm on to the new business of life, not the old business, but the new business. And since I've been out, I've been handling the new business. So that suit just represents the new me. It's stylish, it's clean, it's legal, and it represents business. And I'm doing the business of life, the positive business of life.
That's fantastic. It's really, really great messaging there. Really positive too. And then I want maybe just to kind of like, kind of build off that a little bit, Bobby. Tell us about how being on parole cramps your style and that you live in a little bit of fear that authorities will go out of their way to come up with a parole violation.
No, I actually don't, because when you're doing a life sentence and you never get out of prison, you hoped and prayed on any opportunity to get out, right? Even if it was on parole, but I never thought in my wildest dreams that they would ever let me get parole, because I was never going up for parole. So I don't live in fear. Actually, I'm free. It's like I dreamed of this day. So I don't live in fear about the authorities, because they can do that anytime, whether I was on parole or not. But I just live free. I don't let that hang over my head or nothing of that.
So the bottom line is that being out on parole is 1,000 times better than being incarcerated. So you'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take that any day.
Bobby, I'm curious about the mechanics of being an author in prison. How do you do it? Do you have to do pen on paper? And then how do you ultimately get these books published?
My process, as it is now on the street, I just write it out by hand, ink pen, and just write it out by hand, pen and paper. And then I had a typewriter. Then I would go type it up on my typewriter. And then I'll send it to the streets, and they have to retype it. They'll retype the whole book and then upload it and self-publish.
So you had some access to a typewriter when you were in prison?
Yeah, I bought. That was my favorite purchase in prison, because it was useful. I typed legal motions on it. I typed my books. I typed letters. So I used to work my typewriter all day, every day.
I see. Okay, very cool.
Where is that typewriter today?
It's at home. When I get my first office building, I'm gonna put it in the case and say this is what started the company, because I got my own LLC, which is my own publishing company, and that's what started the company. That typewriter. That's how I started it. So
I was just thinking the same thing. I think I'd keep that typewriter really, really close by. It's got a lot of, better than any trophy or anything else. It's got a lot of meaning behind it. Maybe a follow-up book would be how to get published and write books on the inside.
Oh yeah, it's been other books about it, or chapters inside of books about it, right? So I never really, I just want to help guys get out, or teach them how to get out, more so than how to publish books, because that we kind of already know how to do it. Most of us, if we really want to do it.
Oh, that's great. Hey, I'm just wondering, did Judge Evelyn Baker have the discretion to not have your sentences run concurrently? Was that an option for her?
Yeah, she could have ran it concurrent or gave me less than that, but she chose to run it consecutive. Speaking of Evelyn Baker, as I called y'all, I was just pulling off from her house. God is my witness.
No kidding.
Yeah, I just went to see her today. I was riding through by her neighborhood and called and told her I'm on my way up to come see her, which I do quite often because she's a friend of mine now.
That actually answers my next question.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, just so our listeners know, I was going to ask about what your relationship with her as it stands today, but you just answered. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I just ride down by her neighborhood and said, let me go see her. Called and told her I'm around the corner, and she said, okay, I'm up. Come in.
That's great. Hey, one of the issues with sentences for juveniles is the fact that the brain really doesn't fully develop until we're in our 20s. And I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on the role of brain development, especially for juveniles?
My standpoint on that is that the same rules when they changed the law that when you were under 18, you shouldn't automatically be given life without. As the science stand, anybody under 21 also should get to reach the same chance because they brain not fully developed either. What makes them different if they committed a crime 2 days later, they 18, that they shouldn't get the same chance for parole that one day we did because people age out of crime,
Right.
and those guys should be given a second chance.
Bobby, before your trial, what were the terms of the plea bargain that was offered to you?
30 years of soft life with parole, which equals 30 years in Missouri. So I was offered life sentence, but that's 30 years. So.
Right. And just out of curiosity, what, obviously you make no bones about the crime that you committed. I mean, what do you think is a reasonable sentence for that crime?
That could have been it because it was multiple crimes. That 30 years would have been, would have been sufficient for somebody to learn a lesson.
Right.
But I just didn't get that. Like just now, I just left from her house, right?
Yeah.
I just left the judge's house. So evidently, I know there was a divine purpose in all that the way that happened because that law passed behind my case, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it allows other kids to one day get out of prison that were never getting out, or if they get that type of time, now they at least can go for parole now. So, it all played out the way the God or the divine had, called it down because had that law not passed, some of them dudes would still be stuck in prison forever.
Very true.
So,
very true.
It was a sacrifice I had to go through, and it helped other people get out of prison. So, it was a miracle in that whole situation.
Yeah, that's just a phenomenal way to look at it.
It is.
Obviously, freedom, it's what you've been looking for. You described it as the promised land in your book. But I know that there's challenges adapting to the outside world after a long stretch. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've faced in adapting to your new life?
Real quick, you said that's a good way to look at it, right?
Yeah.
There's no other way to look at it in my situation, but looking at it that way, you can see how sometimes things can play out like that and then turn out good in that way. Because if dozens, like 100-some people get out of prison that wasn't getting out, got a chance to get out of prison now, that can change their life. This is how things come into play. Humble to the Dust. You read Humble to the Dust Till I Rise. Y'all read that book?
Yes.
Okay, that book, like I was saying, the chapter called The Promised Land.
Right.
I actually wrote that book in 2013 when I had no chance to get out of prison. My plan with that book was for the world to read it and say, okay, this man should be out of prison. That's why I wrote the book. It's a testament to say, man, this is my life and I deserve to get out of prison. But the way it happened is I wrote hundreds of publishing company and they turned me down. So I didn't get to publish it until I got out. So now it makes it a good ending because now the book is complete with me on the street now. It had a good ending.
Right, absolutely.
Published when I was in prison while I was still stuck there. So that's why I said how everything turned out the way it's supposed to have in this situation.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, as it turned out, a lot of good came out of it, and a lot of good for time to come will result in it.
Laws got changed, and you're the messenger of that.
Oh yeah, and then what I'm doing with my life now, I got a nonprofit. That book I wrote by my mama, Dear Mama, I created a nonprofit organization called Dear Mama. I do giveaways twice a month through the community. I go give free toys, clothes, shoes, and books to mothers that don't have them, right? And also I volunteered and go to the juvenile detention centers, teach them how to write business plans, essays, job resumes. So, that's the good that came from all this, the work that I'm doing post-prison.
Now, and my earlier question was, there has to be some challenges, though, in adapting to freedom. What are some of those that you've run across?
Cost of living went up versus the money. I mean, That's it. When you dream of getting out of prison, technology is a hurdle because you don't know it. But if you didn't being in prison to tell you, you're not going to let technology.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
the world is different. So it's nothing to adapt to. You dreamed of this, right? You dreamed every day, like, man, I got to get out of this place to get out of prison. So when you get out here, you want to adapt. I mean, you want to adapt to the world because you know the world different. But like right here, I'm standing here at the library. I'm standing on the street. I'm looking at houses. I'm looking at cars and people. This is a miracle that I can never forget. Like I was stuck on a yard on an acre for 27 years. Now I can look out this a main furrow. I can just look out. It's a bank across the street. It's 5 to 6 apartments, 18 houses, cars zipping by, people zipping by. It's like, man, you out, you free, man. This is a miracle, man. That you'll never take for granted again. This is just a miracle just to be free.
That's a good message just in general for everyone.
Yeah. Something to never take for granted. Freedom, just loving life. Regardless if you're struggling on the bill gonna get paid. But you free. That's what matters.
You know, you kind of led me into my next question again. So I thank you for that. I'm curious to know how prison has affected you, not just your mental health, but your physical health. And did you have issues that weren't properly addressed while you were in prison?
No, fortunately, I was working out every day, exercising, jogging every day. So no, my physical is good. I'm free. I get soft mattress. I had to sleep on hard mattresses in there. Steel concrete bunks. Now I'm out and I sleep in a soft bed. So things like that will make me not try to adjust. I just live and just ain't no adjusting, just enjoying freedom, just living. Like enjoying what rightfully
I understand that.
Yeah.
Hey, so Bobby, now it sounds like, if I'm not mistaken, you actually would need a pardon for the governor to be completely off of parole. Is that the case, and how is that going?
Yeah, I'm gonna need Parsons ain't gonna do it. Our current governor's not gonna do it. So as it stands, I'm on parole for the rest of my life right now.
I see. And then if people wanted to help out, like in persuading the governor, is there a means for them to help you with this process?
Yeah, if anybody want to help me out, they can call the parole law. I mean, they can call or write the governor of Missouri and ask him to grant Bobby Bostic a clemency to get off parole or at least commute the sentence to 30 years. So.
Okay, great. Hey, going back to your latest book, a key theme is about how, you found spirituality and how that really just permeated your mindset. And like you said, allowed you to see past the bars. In your work with the youth now, how hard is it to get them to see the benefits of that kind of thinking and that kind of, spirituality?
It's kind of hard for some of them to see, but some of them get it. And whether they get it or not, it's my responsibility to try to teach them because I lost my life at the age of 16 to the system and wasn't ever getting out. So now I came right out with a plan to help them because they were here for me because I lived what they lived. I experienced what they experienced. So they're here for me versus sending somebody else.
Do they get that when you're looking in them eye to eye and that you explain your situation and what you went through? Does that resonate with them at all?
Yeah, they get it. They get it. They don't get it overnight. Some things never come overnight. Eventually they get it though. So it's never a waste of time. It's just something I got to do, something I'm obligated to do.
Hey, Bobby, you mentioned in your book that you always had a certain aptitude for academics. Where do you think that came from?
That came from just wanting to know, just being a curious child, always asking 1,000 questions. And the adults that was impatient would give me an answer that wasn't satisfactory to me, and my mind wouldn't let it go. So I had to go study and search for the answers that I could.
Just a quest for knowledge overall.
Yeah, from the cradle to the grave.
Well, Bobby, I think it was 2010, there was the Graham versus Florida case where the Supreme Court, finally ruled that you couldn't sentence juveniles to LWOP for a non-homicide case. And then I understand in 2016, it was supposed to be applied retroactively, but yet you fell through the cracks on that. What was this ridiculous loophole that prevented you from benefiting from those decisions?
Well, the state of Missouri said that 241 years wasn't life without.
Crazy.
It said even though I got to do 85% of it and I was going to die in prison, they said life without. You don't have life without, so it don't apply. So even though the guys got first-degree murder, we're going to let them go, but you stuck in prison for the rest of your life. And that was that. They didn't bat an eye at that. So It took some Republicans that was conservative, that knew there was an injustice. They got the law changed. And that never happened. They never passed laws in Missouri to let people out of prison, less known violent offenders. So this whole thing is a miracle, man. Y'all sitting here talking to me on this side. We just don't, you have to be in Missouri to know that this never happened. Judges never come back and say they made mistakes. So all this whole thing is a miracle.
You know, I hate to keep asking these. I clearly, you're extremely positive and you're forward thinking. And, you know, we're preparing for an interview and doing our research. You know, we wanted to look, you know, kind of how you got here, what makes Bobby Bostic today. And so I feel guilty asking these questions because you're always forward looking now. But I'm going to ask this one. I noticed that now Senator Josh Hawley was the Missouri AG during the time you were fighting for your freedom, and that he was against you being resentenced. Have you spoken to Senator Hawley since your release, or do you have any plans to do so?
I ain't seen him. I don't have no reason to speak to him that I know of, unless the opportunity comes. But I don't have no reason to speak to him. I'm just free and enjoying it, and I'm thankful for the Republicans that did step up and had a law passed and how I got out of prison.
You know, I know that the list must be long, but what do you think of some of the? We actually asked this question, Bobby, to a lot of the people that we interviewed that have been incarcerated, and so we know that the list is long. But what do you think are some of the key reforms that need to be made inside the prison system? Is there any one or two things that stick out?
Yeah, for me, it'd be education and books, man. That's what sticks out, because they can reform whatever they want. It's still the system can't rehabilitate the man must rehabilitate himself. It's up to the prison themselves to want to change and want to change their life and do something different, regardless of what programs they put in there. And I'll let other prisons talk to y'all about the grievances they have against the system and all that. I'm more, as you said, I ain't blind and none of that. I know what's wrong. I filed 1,000 grievances. I like to be more optimistic and not complain about everything that's wrong, but focus on the things that we can do to make things better. And that goes to us, you know, because we do got victims, et cetera, right? I just want to stay on that side because it's easy to get on the negative side and complain about what's wrong.
That can eat you alive, all that negativity.
Yeah, I hated negativity and I was surrounded by that. So that's why I don't harp on all what's wrong. As you see, either read my book, Time, Endless Moments of Prison, my other book, Life Goes On Inside Prison. I didn't just write a treatise to downgrade the system or talk crazy about the system. I wrote to talk about mentally what goes on, what we experience mentally in our families in prison. I don't want to blame and all that because we can do that all day. Let's get to change and hope. Let's get these guys out of prison and change the world. Let's just do something positive, man, because we can stay on the negative all day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like you say, that's the only way to look at it. You know, Bobby, you talked a little bit about your day-to-day life, but tell us a little bit more about what your life is like, and then kind of what are your short-term and long-term goals at this point in your life?
Short-term goals is to keep being successful, paying bills day to day. My long-term goals is to become wealthy, financially stable and wealthy, and help more many people as I can along the way.
Well, those are nice, clear goals. Anything else, Bobby, that you want to tell people about, you know, what's important to know about you and your story and the work that you do? Just want to give you the floor.
Okay, if you want to know about what I'm doing, you can follow me on Instagram at FreeBobbyBostic. You can follow me on Twitter at FreeBobbyBostic. And you can follow me on LinkedIn at FreeBobbyBostic. But if you look at those pages on Twitter and Instagram, you see what I'm doing daily, the people I'm helping, and the moves I'm making. And the best way is to follow me on social media. And my website is minddiamonds.net. And if you want to know the story, the inner workings of how I got through that and all that, just go on Amazon.com, read my autobiography, read my books on Amazon, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and just know that I'm trying to continue my positive movement. God was good. He got me out of prison. And we just trying to do the work, man, to help these youth not repeat my mistakes and to help those single mothers that struggle and help people in poverty and just make an impact, because we all can have an impact on this world. We all got a purpose that we call for. We got a voice, so we can do something if we just tap into our goals and dreams and our life purpose, and we can help others along the way. It ain't about self all the time. You can get wealth to help other people. You can change yourself while changing the world, changing your community. So that's the work I'm doing. This is what I speak about. I do public speaking. If any college want to book me, y'all can call me. Any church, any organization, nonprofit, y'all want to book me to speak, y'all can call me. DM me on Instagram or Twitter, and I'll come to speak. The same message I'm giving on this podcast is the message I live and talk in my talk. So if you want more of this, then you can call me. If you want my books, I'll bring them to a book signing, to a library. Just free Bobby Bostic, or contact me through this podcast, and I'll be there.
Fantastic. And I understand that you were childhood friends with the rapper Chingy.
Yeah, before he became King, we was friends. You know, we grew up together. And so happened when I went to prison, we used to ride around. He used to be going to the studio when we was kids, and I was like, man, I don't want to really listen to this. Let's listen to some Tupac or something, right? And so
Right.
happened. Now I'm sitting in my cell. He's the number one artist in the world. It's like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm calling home to his house. Like, hey man, what's up, bro? You know, he's the same person. I get out, he just changed. He's just my friend. You know, the childhood friend. So yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I understand the two of you are collaborating to do a lot of good work in the community as well. Is that still the case?
Oh yeah, it's definitely the case. He already knew what I was doing. I was going to the juvenile every week. I go to 3 different juveniles, teach writing workshops, and most of them the guys want to be rappers. And I'm like, now I'm gonna bring somebody in, man, that's a real, that's really successful in their game, and show y'all what happened. I went this route. He stayed true to his music craft. He was successful, and this what happened to me. I was on this crime stuff, and I went this way. So you can't be a rapper and be a criminal and make it like that. You gotta be a rapper, man, like he did, and be successful like that, and not try to do what I did and went to prison at that age and got stuck. So you want to be successful, stay true to your craft, man. Don't try to be over here and do what I did and end up going to prison, man. It's one way or the other, man.
Yeah, that's good messaging.
Awesome
there.
message, yeah.
Yeah, we want to make sure we give your book the proper plug here. And there is no doubt that your book, Humbled to the Dust, Still I Rise. Let me repeat that. Humble to the Dust, Still I Rise, is inspirational. And I'm sure that Mehul and I will be checking out everything that your future books that you're coming out with. And we just want to say again, we really appreciate your positive energy, and thank you so much for sharing your story on our podcast today.
Okay, I appreciate it. And to the listeners, just follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and please feel what I said. If you feel what I said, act on it, and let's try to take the positivity, find our life purpose, and do something in this world.
Well,
Fantastic.
Thank you, Bobby. I got to tell you, you've got me in a good mood, and you've got me fired up. So you're very inspirational, man.
I appreciate that. Now I look forward to hearing this podcast myself when it come out.
Hey, Mehul, I'm going to get started with this. How cool was it that just before the interview, Bobby was literally hanging out with the judge that gave him that insane sentence?
Oh, man, unbelievable.
It's funny because I was just getting ready to ask him literally right before he mentioned that he was running late because he was with the judge, to ask about his relationship with the judge as it stands today.
Yeah, there you go. There's your answer. I mean, she obviously feels bad about the sentence, and being a graceful guy like Bobby is, he's befriended her. And I think that the greater good here is for both of them to team up to make sure this doesn't happen again.
I think it haunted her.
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
This case, I think it really, really haunted her. You don't go, and do all of that and get that involved with an individual case if it didn't haunt you in some way.
Yeah. You know what, Dion, at the end of the interview, Bobby was talking about his relationship with the rapper Chingy. And man, that just made me think of Ice-T and Spike, right? Same kind of deal. We read the book Split Decision and talked to Douglas, and the same kind of idea. Here you have two guys from the same neighborhood, grow up together. One guy goes right, one guy goes left. And it's the exact same situation that we had with Ice-T and Spike. And it's so great that now Chingy and Bobby are together talking to the juveniles, kind of saying, this is what happens if you choose the wrong lane. I mean, if you want to be a rapper, be like Chingy, not like Bobby.
Yeah, I think it was, that one passage that I read in the intro into our interview with him. I think you just need to have juveniles read that. Say, hey, listen, if you're thinking about going and committing a crime, here, read this. And if that doesn't give you pause, then you get everything that you deserve after that.
I mean, I'm mortified by what you read, and that doesn't even include the fights and everything else that could happen. But again, the toilet thing in and of itself. I mean, first of all, having to take a dump in front of 50 dudes. I mean,
I'd be backed up for 241 years.
I'm pretty sure that they don't have ass gaskets there either.
No, no,
not pleasant.
Yeah, and after all of that, all he wanted to talk about was positivity and how things turned out. And it turns out like a lot of our questions, and I think I mentioned this in the interview with him, because we've had a lot of wrongful convictions, and then what Bobby went through and the time that he spent in there. And they're like it's just shocking how positive these guys are and how positive Bobby was.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, you'd think that nothing ever happened for Bobby. I mean, he could just take the attitude that, hey, I'm out now. I don't care what's going on in the outside world. I am out. And, he's got a different viewpoint, because he really thought that there was absolutely no chance of him ever getting out whatsoever. He didn't have the wrongful conviction card to play, so he wasn't making a legal argument on that front. He literally needed a law to change to get him out. And so, when you look at his work now,
which I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
but what's such a long shot that is. If you need a law anywhere in the land, and that's how you're hoping to get out, good luck.
Exactly. And, this is in Missouri too. This is, sort of, well, Midwest kind of South. So, I mean, certainly there's a reputation there. But, Bobby now, it looks to me like his mission is not to reform the system, but to keep people out of it.
That's it.
And so by using the positive attitude he has and just trying to stem it, where it starts is with the juveniles, thinking that they can get away with this and that. And you go to prison for a little bit, you get a little bit of a record. But as we've talked 100 times on this podcast, don't get in the system.
That's it.
Because bad things happen to you, even if you're innocent, or you could get a horrible sentence like Bobby did. And Bobby's not going to reform the prison or the system, but, he's going to help the kids. And, I like how he talks too about the fact that prison can't reform you or rehabilitate you. The man himself or the woman, they've got to do it.
That's right. And there's no question that society is better off having the new Bobby Bostic out.
Yeah.
He's making a huge impact on a lot of people. I think he's playing with house money. I think he realizes that.
Yes. Yeah.
And rather than having this guy warehouse for the rest of his life, I love his attitude. While I'm listening to him, when we're interviewing him, I got a smile on my face. And then that's where he, drops that on us and says that, the prison can't reform anyone.
Yep.
They have to do it themselves. And that's it. Bottom line.
Yeah. And I think you brought this up too, that forget about people who've been in prison. I mean, this guy is just an inspiration about appreciating life. I mean, if you look at his Instagram, the dude is just happy to be out doing what we would think are mundane things, shopping and stuff like that he had no hope of doing for so many years.
Yeah, it's like you see in a movie, colors are brighter, food tastes better.
Yes.
And I guess, unfortunately, that's one way to experience and that kind of joy is to go through what he went through, but he is, and he's seeing it and he's living it.
Yeah. And, his book, it captures his entire life's journey in great detail. And the first part of the book is really depressing because it talks about the tough childhood he had, how he fell in with the wrong crowd, and really how dismal the future seemed. And, God, you hate to make this comment, but the way his life was going, it's almost like perhaps prison was the best thing that could have happened to him. I mean, for a guy like him who could take the initiative to read and study and all of that, it turned out it really turned his life around. And, sometimes the life on those mean streets, you could end up dead. So as Bobby said, despite all of this misfortune, there really is a happy ending here.
You know what? There's a lot of truth to that. And sometimes, we don't recognize that especially when we're young, that we have a lot of good in us. And then you have to, unfortunately, go through this experience to see it for yourself, because people can tell you all day long, but until you see it in yourself, make a change, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, 100%.
It's truly amazing that Bobby sees his unfair sentence as a sacrifice that he had to take on. I thought that was just an amazing statement in itself.
Wow. Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah. Cause he's like, okay, if I would have taken the plea bargain, I wouldn't be in the same position, but then all these good things wouldn't have happened
That's right.
from it. I mean, how selfless can you be?
Yeah, not only did he improve himself, but he paved the way for so many other people to be freed. So, it's just crazy to say that about, someone who was incarcerated, but really an incredible man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dion, I think that Bobby did a good job of telling us about how to follow him on social media and how to contact him. And I'm really looking forward to checking out more of his books. My appetite has been whet, and I definitely want to continue to follow him on Instagram. I have been checking him out, and just the other day he was out at a college giving a speech, and the theme of his speech was "Make history while remaking yourself." And I'm like, wow, that is just incredible. I love his spirit.
Yeah, it's a great message for the right demographics.
Right.
This is the group that needs to hear that. You feel really indestructible, that you can do anything and nothing can touch you. So I think it's just whoever the dean is of that school, it was a smart idea bringing this young man in.
Absolutely.
So be sure to check out Bobby's other books on Amazon. We hope you were as inspired as we were by his story. And then, as always, we just want to say thanks again for listening to the Crime Redefined podcast. And let us know what you think on social media. And we've got some big news here. We recently jumped on TikTok with the handle at crime.redefine.p. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Crime Redefined podcast. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Crime Redefined. Please send us your comments and questions and join us for the next episode.